Today we're making these incredibly easy mitten Christmas ornaments. Hi friends, let's get straight into it. Grab your long 60-inch strand of cord and give yourself a little bit of a tail. Fold it over and tie an overhand knot. This is going to be the hanger portion that we put on the tree. And you also want a small little tail at the bottom here. This is about 4 inches or so. Next, grab your 35-inch strand of cord and fold it in half. With the loop end, you want to come up behind both strands of cord and then thread your long tail ends through the loop. This is called a reverse lark's head knot. Okay, so cinch up your slack and slide it all the way over to your right next to your overhand knot. Then attach 3 more in the same way. You should have a total of 4 reverse lark's head knots. Now very carefully, you want to take your sharp scissors and snip off that short tail end. Be very careful not to cut the long strand because we're going to need it right now. With the long strand, you want to place it underneath the very first strand of your reverse lark's head knot. And what we're going to do is we're going to tie a vertical double half hitch knot. Make a loop on your right, wrap your long tail end around and through the loop, and cinch all the way up to the top. Now this is just looped around itself, so you want to repeat one more time. So make a loop on your right, wrap your long tail end around and through the loop, then cinch all the way up to the top. And that's how you tie a vertical double half hitch knot. And this knot is the reason why I consider this an easy pattern and not a beginner pattern. Alright, so let's go over it again. You want to place your long strand behind the next strand, then make a loop on your right, wrap it around and through the loop, cinch all the way up to the top, and repeat one more time. So make a loop on your right, wrap it around and through the loop, and cinch all the way up to the top. Alrighty, continue tying your vertical double half hitch knots all the way straight across to the end of this row. And on a side note here, if you find that I'm going too fast, you can always adjust the speed of this video by tapping the 3 dots on the top right corner. Also, if you need more help with your knots, go check out my knot tutorial playlist. Okay, so we went all the way across. Now what you want to do is you want to take the same strand and go back in the opposite direction. So to do this, take your working cord and place it behind the last strand, bring it over to the left, make a loop on your left hand side this time, wrap your long tail end behind and through the loop, cinch all the way up to the top, and then repeat one more time. Make a loop on your right, around, through the loop, and cinch up to the top. So for this second row, we're going to go all the way straight across in reverse. If you're new to vertical double half hitch knots, this pattern is the perfect pattern to practice on. And once you get really confident with this knot, this is the same knot that's used for macrame pixel art. Alrighty, once you've gone all the way across to the left, we're going to take the same strand of cord and we're going to go back towards the right. This third row is the last row of vertical double half hitch knots. You should have something that looks like this when you're finished. Now here comes the easier part because it's all just square knots. Now this long tail end that we were working with, you want to pull it all the way up to the top. We're not going to be using it anymore. We are only going to be focusing on the bottom strands now. Divide your cords into 3 sections like this. Grab another 35-inch strand of cord and fold it in half. Then once you find the center, you want to place that behind the first 2 strands of cord, just like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to tie a square knot using this floating cord here. What we're trying to achieve here is to add a bit more width to our project. Our 3 rows of vertical double half-hitch knots act like the ribbing on our mitten, and then the square knots act as the knit. Once you've tied your floating square knot, you want to go ahead and slide it all the way up to the top, right underneath our ribbing. With the next section of 4 cords, we're going to tie just a regular square knot. With our last section, we're going to tie another floating square knot. Grab another strand of cord, fold it in half, and then with the center, place it behind the last 2, and then tie your floating square knot. The next row is similar. We're going to do floating square knots on the ends and then 2 regular square knots in the center. Now for this row, we're going to alternate our square knots by leaving the first 2 and the last 2 cords out, and then we're going to tie 3 square knots right in the center. Alright, bring down all of your cords, and what we're going to do next is we're going to work on the foundation of our thumb. Pull aside the first 4 cords on your left, and what we're going to do is we're going to grab our last strand of cord, fold it in half, and we're going to tie a floating square knot around all 4 of these cords. Try not to squeeze it too tightly where all the 4 cords kind of fold in onto itself. It's okay if it does it a little bit, but you kind of want to have them lined up nicely. Now slide this knot all the way up to the top, but you want to have it at an angle. Now the reason for this is because we want all our knots in a row, except on the other side. We want it to stick out on an angle. By doing it like this, that's what really makes it look more like a mitten and less like just some random square knots off to the side. Now I'm pulling the 2 outside cords on our thumb section so that it's out of the way and it doesn't get jumbled in with the rest of our cords. Now for the rest of this row, we're going to tie 3 square knots all the way across. Okay, so this next row is probably the most confusing row. At our thumb section here, with the 4 cords that are in the middle, you want to split them in half and grab the 2 cords that are on the right. With the 2 right side thumb cords, you want to incorporate those into the rest of the mitten. So take the 2 thumb cords and 2 of the other side cords and tie a square knot. Tie 3 square knots for this row. And we are leaving out the last 2 cords because we're alternating. Alright, now let's complete the thumb. With your 4 thumb cords, we're going to tie 3 square knots stacked on top of each other. Now that the thumb portion of our mitten is complete, just kind of move it off to the side and we will finish off the rest. For this row, skip the first 2 cords and tie 3 regular square knots. For the next row, we're going to use the 2 cords we skipped at the beginning and tie 3 square knots all the way across again. For our last row, we're going to skip the first 2 cords and tie just 2 square knots. Alright, so now we're almost finished. All we have to do is clean up the ends. With a sharp pair of scissors, snip off your loose ends, leaving about 1/2 inch of length. Now it's looking a little bit crazy, so to fix all the loose ends, you want to grab your hot glue gun and put just a little dab of glue on the back and fold those loose ends over onto the glue. Do this with all the loose ends. We're not finished yet. Now you might notice that your mitten looks a little bit silly, kind of like a hoof. To fix that issue, you want to use just a little bit of hot glue on the inside of your square knots, and then just push the 2 ends together. You want to hold it there for just a little bit, and you will find that it rounds out the end of your mitten. If you like this macrame Christmas ornament, I have plenty more in store for this Christmas season. Click the link on the screen now, and I'll see you over there.